You're tuned to the nowhere signal. What you're about to hear was never meant to be found. The fog was thick enough that I couldn't see the road signs until I was practically past them. Each one would flash into visibility for half a second, just long enough to recognize, too late to turn. I'd been driving for hours. The GPS had frozen 20 miles back. A pulsing blue dot surrounded by nothing. No roads. No destination. Just a note at the bottom of the screen, rerouting. I should have stopped earlier. Should have booked something before the signal dropped out. But I kept thinking I could push a little farther, find a main road, get back on track. I hadn't seen another car in over an hour. When I saw the sign, it was already behind me. A flickering neon arrow through the mist, the Halcyon Inn, vacancy. I slowed, reversed, turned in. The parking lot was wider than expected. Smooth blacktop, fresh lines, glowing gently under yellow overhead lights. 5 cars already parked. But the motel itself was quiet. Still. No one outside. No curtains moving. It wasn't what I'd expected out here in the middle of nothing. Too clean. Too new. A small, curved reception building sat at the center. 2 wings of rooms stretched out on either side, angled just enough that I couldn't see where they ended. Inside the reception, a bell rang the moment I opened the door. The lobby smelled like lavender and pine. Soft jazz played over invisible speakers. There was a bowl of peppermints on the front counter, beside a small handwritten sign, "Welcome home, Mr. Flynn." I froze. I hadn't told them my name. I hadn't made a reservation. Before I could say anything, a woman stepped out from the office behind the counter. Late 50s, pressed gray uniform, name tag, Marlene. She smiled like we were old friends. "You're right on time," she said. "Room 103 is ready for you." She handed me a key. An actual key, metal, slightly warm in my palm. With a faded leather tag, 103. I should have asked more questions. Instead, I nodded, smiled, and let her point me toward the right hallway. "Breakfast is at 8, she said as I walked away. "Checkout is flexible." The hall was carpeted in red with gold patterns. Muted lighting overhead, spaced out just far enough to leave some parts in shadow. I passed room 101. Then 102. Then, room 103. It was already slightly ajar. Inside, the room was spotless. Not just clean, timeless. Cream walls, dark curtains, neatly made bed with pale blue sheets. A desk with a single pen and blank notepad. No TV. No clock. The lamps buzzed faintly, like they were trying to remember a sound. A large mirror sat opposite the bed, framed in dark oak. On the table beside the bed was a small folded card. I opened it. Just one line inside, written in the same handwriting as the sign at the front desk, "Rest well. You've earned it." I sat on the edge of the bed. The sheets didn't move. No creak, no shift. It felt like the room had been waiting. I turned on the shower. The water was warm instantly. Steam filled the mirror. When I wiped it clean, my reflection lagged a second behind. Just a second. But enough. Back in bed, I pulled the covers up. My body felt heavy, and not from exhaustion, like I had been here before, and my muscles remembered it. Somewhere down the hall, I heard a door open. Then footsteps. Slow. Measured. Then, silence. I left the lamp on. Closed my eyes. And when I finally drifted off, I dreamed of hallways that stretched forever. I woke to silence. The kind of silence that feels intentional. Constructed. There was no wind outside. No cars on the highway. Even the steady hum of the mini fridge was gone. Just the occasional soft click of the overhead light, like it was breathing. I sat up and checked my phone. Still no signal. No Wi-Fi. The time was stuck at 12 o'clock. It hadn't changed since I got here. I opened the door slowly. The hallway was empty. The same soft gold lights flickered above. But something felt off. I walked a few steps to the left. Room 104. Then 105. The room stretched farther than I remembered. Hadn't the end of the hall been only 2 doors past mine? Now it continued. More rooms. More carpeting. The exact same light fixtures overhead, repeating like a loop. Room 115. 116, 117. I turned around. There, down the hall, was room 103. I hadn't made a turn. But somehow, I was facing back the way I came. I retraced my steps, slower this time. Each room number passed in perfect order. But when I reached what should have been the end, it kept going. Room 118. 119, then, room 121. There was no room 120. And 121 had a brass frame instead of black. The only one like it. I touched the doorknob. It was cold. Colder than it should have been. Like metal left in a freezer. The door didn't open. But as I stood there, I heard a sound behind me. A soft creak. I turned. The hallway lights dimmed slightly. Far down by the reception lobby, a figure passed across the hallway. Too fast to see clearly. But tall. Unhurried. It didn't look back. I walked quickly back toward my room. Each door was closed tight now. And for a moment, just a flicker, I thought I saw something in the mirror outside room 110. Not a reflection. More like a shadow, behind the reflection. Back in room 103, everything looked the same. Same bed. Same desk. But the folded card on the nightstand had changed. It now read, "You've made good progress. Keep going." Same handwriting. I hadn't heard anyone come in. I tried to sleep again. But every time I closed my eyes, I heard the same thing, footsteps. Always somewhere down the hall. Sometimes above me. But there were no stairs. No second floor. At one point, I sat straight up. The footsteps had stopped right outside my door. And then, knock. 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 3 perfectly spaced knocks. I waited. They didn't repeat. After 10 minutes, I opened the door. The hallway was completely empty. Except room 121 was now slightly ajar. Morning, or what passed for it, brought a pale gray light through the curtains. I dressed quickly and stepped outside, hoping to find someone, anyone, in the parking lot. Maybe ask how long they'd been staying here. The cars were still there. Same ones. Same arrangement. Not a single one had moved. A thick layer of dew coated each windshield, undisturbed. No one was coming or going. The front lobby was quiet. No Marlene. No music. Just a fresh batch of cookies on the counter. Still warm. And a pot of coffee, half full. 2 mugs placed beside it, already poured. Steam rising. As though someone expected company. I heard movement behind the lobby wall. A rustle. A chair shifting. "Hello?" I called. No answer. I circled the desk and peeked into the office. Empty. But a notepad sat on the desk with something scribbled in large, looping cursive, "Do not disturb the long-term guests." I turned around quickly, and nearly walked straight into someone. A man. Mid-40s. Pale skin. Hollow eyes. He wore an oversized flannel shirt and slippers. A key dangled from his index finger. Room 110. He stared at me. Unblinking. "Morning," I said. No response. He just slowly raised one hand and pointed down the hallway. I looked. Nothing there. When I turned back, he was gone. Later that afternoon, I tried to leave. Not because of anything specific, just a rising itch behind my thoughts. Like I'd forgotten something important. I loaded my bag in the car and sat behind the wheel. The engine wouldn't start. The GPS blinked to life, but still showed nothing. Just the same message, rerouting. I turned my head to check the lot. A woman now stood outside room 119. She was brushing her hair. Long, black strands that fell perfectly straight. I waved to her. She didn't wave back. Just kept brushing. And brushing. That night, I walked past the vending machine alcove and saw two children sitting on the floor. Twins. Maybe 9 years old. Wearing matching red pajamas. They didn't speak. They didn't blink. They were drawing something on the carpet in white chalk. A large spiral. Room numbers all around the spiral's edge. When they noticed me, they covered it with their hands, fast. "You're not supposed to see that," the girl said. The boy added, "You're still in the check-in phase." They stood, walked into room 111, and closed the door. But when I followed and knocked, there was no room 111. Only room 109. Then room 112. No space in between. Back in my room, the card on the nightstand had changed again. This time it read, "Progress delayed. Emotional resistance detected." There was something else tucked beneath it now. A brochure. Glossy. Printed professionally. The Halcyon Inn, a sanctuary for the soul, unlimited stay. Flexible identity support. Free breakfast. Forgetting optional. The final line was in red, "Ask about room 0." I looked up at the mirror across the room. And for the briefest second, I saw someone else in my reflection. Not me. He looked calmer. Smiling. Wearing my clothes. Standing exactly where I was standing. Then he was gone. The elevator was never supposed to work. Marlene had told me it was decorative. Just there for symmetry. It didn't even have buttons. Just a brass panel with an "out-of-service" sign screwed in place. But that night, after the mirror incident, I stepped into the lobby to find the elevator doors open. Soft yellow light spilled from within. The sign was gone. And the button panel now had one single, round button at the bottom, room 0, no floor number. Just a 0. Embossed in silver, gleaming faintly under the overhead light. I stood there for a full minute, waiting for the doors to close. They didn't. Eventually, I stepped inside. The moment I did, the doors slid silently shut behind me. There was no motion at first. Just quiet. Stillness. Then, the slowest descent I've ever felt. Gravity shifted subtly, like the elevator wasn't moving down so much as through something. A pressure built in my ears. My thoughts grew muddy. I felt like I was falling asleep with my eyes open. The descent lasted nearly a full minute. Then, ding, the doors opened into darkness. The hallway before me looked inverted. Black carpet. White walls. Every light fixture buzzed faintly overhead, flickering like a dying signal. The numbers on the doors were reversed, mirror-written. None of them made sense. R00M.12M002. 0.13. I kept walking. The hallway turned sharply, even though there was no visible bend. And then, I came to it. A door with no knob. No hinges. Only a small brass plaque, "Check out." It pulsed faintly with light. Warm, steady, like a heartbeat. I reached out. The door opened on its own. Inside was a room identical to mine. Same layout. Same furniture. Same mirror. Except, someone was in the bed. Lying still. Breathing shallow. I stepped closer. It was me. I mean, he looked like me. But his face was relaxed in a way mine hadn't been in years. No tension in the jaw. No scars under the eyes. And on the nightstand beside him was a folded card, "You've made it. Let go now." Suddenly, I felt pressure behind me. I turned, and there was the front desk clerk, Marlene, standing in the doorway. But her uniform was dark now. Gray fading to black. Her name tag said only, "Host." She didn't enter. "Most don't reach this point," she said gently. "You must have been very tired." I stepped back. "What is this place?" I asked. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked at the other me in the bed. "He's already checked out," she said. "He chose peace." "And if I don't?" I asked. She tilted her head. "Then you'll be upgraded." Her voice echoed as if in two places at once. "Longer stay. Deeper floors." I looked down. The floor beneath me was rippling. Like liquid glass. And below it, I saw dozens of versions of the same motel room. Stacked endlessly. Each one with a guest sleeping. Some were familiar. All were me. I turned and ran. Back through the hallway. Back to the elevator. This time, there were more buttons. Not just room 0, but also 1, -2, -3. Dozens. I slammed the top one, lobby. When I woke, I was lying on the couch in the reception lounge. A blanket over me. My suitcase beside me. The sun had just begun to rise. The elevator was dark again. The "out of service" sign was back. The cookies were still warm. And Marlene? Nowhere to be seen. On the counter was a new folded card. It read, "Your reservation has been extended. Room 122. A new key lay beside it. Fresh leather tag. Same faded gold trim. I left room 122 the next morning without unpacking. Didn't even check the bathroom. I took my keys and my bag and walked straight to the front desk. Still no Marlene. But the pot of coffee had been replaced. Full. Still steaming. A folded note rested beside it. "We hope you enjoyed your stay. Please visit again." I took the note and walked outside. The fog had lifted. The trees around the parking lot looked greener. The air clearer. But something still felt wrong. The other cars? Still there. Exactly as they had been. No tire tracks. No signs of departure. I unlocked my door, threw the bag in, and started the engine. It rumbled to life. Finally. I backed out and turned toward the driveway exit. As I reached the edge of the lot, the same flickering neon sign blinked in the corner of my eye, the Halcyon Inn. Vacancy. I pulled out onto the road. The tires bumped slightly as I hit the main highway again. No GPS. No reception. But I didn't care. I was moving. I drove for 5 straight minutes before I realized the trees weren't changing. Neither was the sky. Still that hazy blue-gray. Like dawn stretched on pause. Then I saw the sign again. Same neon arrow. Same words. The Halcyon Inn, vacancy. I slammed the brakes. Looked behind me. No building. Just road. I turned the wheel and drove the opposite direction. Another 10 minutes. Another sign. Same arrow. Same motel. Same lot. My car was already parked there. I left the engine running this time and stepped out. The front door of the reception was already open. Inside, Marlene stood waiting. But her face had changed. Younger. No name tag. No smile. "You weren't supposed to leave yet," she said. "We haven't finished with you." I didn't speak. "You checked in," she continued. "That's a binding agreement." "No one checks out," she added. "Not really." Behind her, the elevator dinged. Its doors opened without prompting. The single button, lower. Not room 0. Just lower. I ran back to the car. This time I didn't take the highway. I veered off down a dirt road through the trees. The branches clawed at the sides. Mud splattered the windows. But finally, I saw a gas station in the distance. Lights on. An actual building. I pulled in and jumped out. A man stood behind the counter, sipping a cup of coffee. He looked up and paused. "You're one of them, huh?" he said quietly. "What?" I asked. He pointed behind me. Across the street, barely visible in the trees, a small wooden sign, Halcyon Inn, employee parking. I looked back at my reflection in the gas station window. And for the first time, I didn't recognize myself. The nowhere signal will return tomorrow. Until then, sleep light.